Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do a little bit of painting this evening. Spray painted some of my other characters here that are coming up. And we're just going to go with a Vallejo primer and try to touch anything up, make sure we got all the black everywhere it needs to be, which is pretty much everywhere. And yeah, we got a few things here. This is the Raffam Panzer 2L, the Lux, which is a fancy name for a lynx. And you know, that's the thing about spray paint is you can use spray paint, but to get it everywhere it needs to go, you're going to have to apply it way too thick in other places. So I try to get it just about everywhere, and then I'm going to have to go in and brush paint some of the other areas where it didn't get in, because otherwise you're just going to have to apply it too thick in a couple of coats. So we got some German vehicles here that we went ahead and sprayed black. That'll probably be the next cast of characters that we'll paint up here, so that these Shermans can have a feast. Because at some point I need to kind of do a mock battle to go through the actions and everything and see how that plays out with these rules that I played a few times, but I've never used vehicles. I've read them. I've got a pretty good idea how they're gonna play out, but you know, sometimes the actual experience, you encounter stuff that you're not aware of. But anyhow, so this is Panzer 2L. By Raffam, and they're actually a company that's still in business. I think they're still Canadian. They used to be Canadian. And we do want all of this in black because the method that I use, I dry brush all the color on top of it, so we leave some of this black in the crevices. It keeps me from having to do a pin wash. So I was pretty happy with the results. I did my first vehicle the other day. We need to put this in a little, let's put this in a little container area here where we can access it. Let me put my glasses on so I can find myself. And we have a little lid here that we could probably use. It's what I've used in the past. We just got to make sure all the dust and stuff is on it. We don't want to transfer that onto the model. And we'll see if somebody comes up tonight. It's going to be kind of a tall order because it's a little later than I normally start, but I painted that last vehicle over the weekend, and I got it down to about 3.5 hours. And I think that's pretty good. I'm okay with a vehicle taking about the same length of time as a 15mm figure. I think that seems about right. I think that seems about right. So we can work with that. Let's not get this on the floor. That would be bad. I don't really want to do that cleanup, and I don't want to do that cleanup starting at after 9:30 at night. Would not be a happy camper. Let's just go over this. And make sure that it is in all the crevices, because if not, it's going to be really apparent when I start dry brushing this stuff on. This color, the Dunkelgelb on. And this one will be camouflaged. I can tell you that already. That was just a fluke that the Stug 4 is not camouflaged. This one will be camouflaged in the 3 colors. I'm going to end up getting some of this paint on my fingers, and there's just no other way around it. Okay, how's the turret? Needs a little bit of touch up on it. Somebody with a noisy motorcycle. Sounds of decadent civilization. All right. We're going to let this guy dry over here. Okay. And we'll drill out the antennas and such at a later date. Okay, here is the one that we tore apart with acetone. And I didn't think I was going to successfully be able to take that out. Take it apart. And this one we're going to have to do some stuff to it, because you can see there's part of this track's even missing, and this is all white metal. These two are the vehicles that I did not glue something underneath them where I can hold them by. They're just too heavy. So this one's going to be Panzer Gray. Because this is going to be for early Barbarossa. This is a Stug 3E. And they used them, I'm sure some of them got used afterwards, but basically from the beginning of Barbarossa, and even earlier, but I'm not doing the French campaign and stuff like that. Actually, I don't know if the E was around back then. But we're going to use it for early Barbarossa through, like, Stalingrad and stuff. Although I don't think I'll be doing any Stalingrad games. But I'm not a big Stalingrad fan. I'm actually surprised so many people are. I just, not really a fan of that. And It might be a rough night for folks to come on. Well, we're just going to do what we're going to do. It's too early to go to sleep, and we have to do this anyway, so. Panzer Gray. Okay. Let's do the tracks. We certainly don't want any unpainted portions staring at you there from the tracks. That's about it on this one. Okay. Then we have a Stug 3G. This is a Fujimi kit, 176 scale. With Schertzen on it. Not worried about not being able to get in there. All that stuff, if it's going to be dark, we're good with that. We're actually good with that. Okay. This one didn't have a whole lot of spots that were missed. Got the smoke dischargers on there. Pretty rough model though. And this is my Eschi Panzer 4. This one is going to have green camo on it. We're going to paint this one like the one I used to have in 1/35th scale for 1/16th Panzer Division. The running Greyhound. We're not going to put the division symbol on it, but we're going to paint it like I used to have one. So almost like a yellow with the green spider web type over it. Not spider web, but it's going to have green camo on it. Just watched a program while I was at the gym on this thing by the Chieftain, and he's really thorough about different stuff, and he didn't mention the fact what was unique about this vehicle, or what I thought was really unique about this vehicle, is that the machine gun that it was carried was actually an MG42, and even MG42 came out in 1942 at some point, but the vehicles machine guns, they kept carrying the MG34 because the holes in the ball mounts were round. And the diameter of the MG34 is also round, so that fits in there nicely. An MG42 is rectangular; it's oblong shaped, and but this one actually carried an MG42 in this machine gun port here, and it almost looks like a dome that slides off to the side, and when it slides out, you got a hole there for the MG42 to go to town. So he didn't mention that. I'm surprised. And that was a unique thing about this vehicle. There's lots of unique things about this vehicle, but that one in particular. Pretty much the squads and everything, they went to the MG42 because it was easier to manufacture. It was a little bit more robust, less finicky with the environment. Just easier to produce. But the vehicles soldiered on with the MG34 because they were round. The diameter of them was round. The diameter of the actual machine gun, well, obviously it's not this big, but I guess it'd probably be about that big around. The cooling, this Swiss cheese looking cooling vents on it. The only other vehicle that I can think of right now, German vehicle that used an MG42, was the Ferdinands at Kursk. If I remember correctly, that was the first time that they were introduced was at Kursk, and the 653rd and 654th Tank Destroyer battalions used them. They used them at Kursk. They used them on the north end. So Kursk was split in two. Manstein commanded the south. Model, if I remember, commanded the north. And most of the super weapons are in the south. That was the side that they punched in more. The north end was more infantry, and all the Ferdinands were back up there. But there was two units that both carried the Ferdinands, and I've got a model of one that was already pre-done. And what was unique about that one is all it has is it's got the King Tiger gun in it. So it's got the super long 88 millimeter gun, 71 caliber. And what was unique about that one was it had no machine guns at all. There was not a machine gun in the hull, the front hull, everything. And it became really apparent that they needed that. So if I remember correctly, one of the battalions had, I don't remember which was the 653rd or the 654th, had platforms that they put on the back of the superstructure for Panzer Grenadiers to hang out in. And I think the same one also carried MG42s inside of the vehicles. It's a big vehicle, but it had no opening in the hull to fire out of it. So they literally had to fire out of the barrel. Let me go pull that model of it since I'm talking about it. I'm talking so much about it that let me make sure I get the right glasses. And we've got someone here, a lurker. This was the only other vehicle that I can think of right off the bat that had an MG42 in it, as opposed to a 34. And this is a Dragon pre-painted thing. It came this way. And this is actually the hull of the original, of one of the two Tiger tanks models. This was the Porsche Tiger tank, which was an ugly vehicle. They really changed this around, but it had the turret was a little bit towards the front instead of the back on it, but they didn't go with that one. They ended up going with the standard Tiger tank by Henschel, I believe. And they had all these holes, so they're like, hey, let's mount this massive gun on it and take it to the eastern front where we can shoot at things at really long distances. tank destroyer called the Nashorn that also had this gun before the King Tiger came around in mid 1944. This was mid 1943 when this thing came out. And I think, let's see, can I put this somewhere where it's not going to get paint on it? Should be pretty safe there. And I think the Nashorns also made their debut at Kursk. I could be wrong. But anyhow, so this vehicle has no defensive machine guns at all. When it first came out, it didn't have the one in the hull yet. After Kursk, they brought them back and they said, you know, we need a defensive machine gun. They didn't put one up here in the front of the hull. But this is actually a Ferdinand, not a an Elephant. The Ferdinand was the one that was at Kursk and it has no hull machine gun on there. But two of the units, one of them had this platform that they kind of jerry-rigged back here, and some Panzer Grenadiers could hang out there. I'd imagine like 4 to 6 of them or something like that. And some of them carried an MG42 inside that they used to fire through the barrel of the tank, which I'm sure was really bad for the lining of it. And after Kursk, they brought them back, and they used some on the Eastern Front in Italy, and Italy also is a place where they used them. So, John Sank, welcome. We're just talking Panzers here, Panzers and Panzerjägers and that kind of stuff. And I don't know what book I read that in, many years ago, but you remember unique things like that. You know, there's stuff that you read that's like, that's really unique. That's going to be really hard to forget. And for some reason, I think the same battalion had both. Had the machine guns in there to fire out of the barrel and had the Panzer Grenadier platforms. And the other one just didn't have anything. But they used them on the north side of Kursk. They end up being a great weapon if you could hit people at long range. Once you start mixing it up, you know. And they have a ton of armor. This thing actually has more armor than a King Tiger. And I don't know why I got it. It's already pre-painted. I got it 20 years ago or something like that when they were coming out. These things used to be like $15 each, which is pretty reasonable. Now they're out of print and people want like $50 of them or something like that for them. So I ain't selling mine. So if you want to use these at Kursk, you can't use them with Panthers because all the Panthers were in the south. They're basically hanging out with infantry divisions and stuff like that in the north. In the north, they didn't penetrate as far. So they were already stopped in the north while the south was still going. So okay, I think this is going to be close enough for this. Now, I'm going to do something. I'm going to get rid of this guy before something happens to him. Move him over there. I got a couple of Panzer IIs. I mean, I got a crap ton of vehicles. We'll paint this up one for a special someone. Where are my Panzer IIs? Here's that Archer. We'll touch it up. Here's that 232 for Nordic. That's his favorite vehicle. Even though it's a sloppy model of one. We'll paint those guys up. Sloppy model of one. For sure, for sure. Let's knock these guys out. Yeah, see, this has already been sprayed a long time ago. The Archer, that I was very disappointed to find out that they did not have this at Market Garden. Hadn't been invented yet. Missed it by like a month, as far as I can tell. Let's not fall on the ground, dude. Let's not fall on the ground. All right. Stuff in the running gear. Oh yeah. Yeah, if you try to get spray paint in here, you're going to get so much everywhere else just trying to get to these spots in the back. You just have to like try to get most of the big spots and then come in and touch up with this other stuff that's not going to cover up any detail, because this stuff is actually self-leveling. You can put too much of this on, but you've got to like go nuts. You got to go nuts with it. Oh, I don't have. Why doesn't my phone? Oh, really? My phone was connected. Here we go. Yeah, that'll drain like crazy then. Archer, is that German? No, it's British. No, I just had it here. I wanted to do it the other day, and the bad thing about this thing, it doesn't come with a crew, and you really should be looking at about three guys. The driver's hidden back in here, but you should have the commander, the gunner, and the loader that are visible. So we'll have to jerry rig some Tommies and put them in there. Spencer Wright, welcome. Yeah, this will be projects that we can get ready for the rest of the week, and you might see we're going to do a camouflage scheme with this thing. I've seen a camouflage that involves some brown or whatever on this, and there will be no U.S. stars on this for air recognition or nothing. I hate how that looks. I really don't like it at all. European. I'm not getting into the desert. That's just, I would have to reconfigure everything. I love the desert, but I plan on, if I game with these, it'll be definitely infantry heavy. So infantry heavy in the desert is just kind of a bad combination, unless you're going to do like night battles. So or unless you're going to do stuff like long range desert group raids and stuff like that. But I'm not in a hurry to paint a bunch of Brits dressed up as Arabs and use those Chevrolet vehicles. Those vehicles are really actually very ugly, even though they got 1 million machine guns on them. I don't care for those vehicles very much. Yeah, we're missing some spots down in here. This brush is El Hugo. What rule set? The question everybody wants to know. And then I say the rule set and nobody's heard of it because it's discontinued. The Face of Battle. It was published around 2002. And I've never used it with vehicles. I've used it with infantry. I really like the way it handles infantry. But it's kind of one of those things where you're using a vehicle. I just have this many vehicles for variety. Not that, you're going to have a very vehicle-centric game. I mean, you could do it, you're just never going to finish. Okay, this thing's, I think, been touched up before. This is... And you thought you knew them all. Well, it's been out of production for... I don't blame you for not knowing what it is. It's been out of production for a long time. You can get, like, their modern version is available on... what's it called? Drive-Thru RPG? I don't know if it's Drive-Thru RPG, the other one. The war game one that's digital. I don't understand why there's not more stuff there in that format. I wanted to get some of those skirmish campaign books, but I don't want to pay for them and then wait for them to come in. Why can't they be a digital download, Yeah, there's not much. This thing's already been touched up once, so I think that's good for now. I'm going to have to take some of this. Man, this thing is crusty. But I was really happy the way this turned out, and I don't think this does it justice because the lighting in here is great for painting, but it's not that yellow looking in it. It just looks blah, blah. It's just all one big yellow turd, but it doesn't really look that way in other light. So I was really happy with the way this turned out, and this is kind of a crummy model anyways. That's the same manufacturer as this one, the same manufacturer as this one. So they're kind of rough. Let me go rinse this out and I'll be right back. Well, I kind of performed a miracle without wanting to. This surface primer is a pain to get out of brushes, and it kind of like ruins brushes. And once you start using one for it, they're pretty crappy. But this just happened to be a new synthetic brush that I picked up over the weekend. You know, one of these cheap ass packs. And I got all of it out. I used some hand soap and just scrubbed the living shit out of it. And it got it all out. Unbelievable. That's a nice thing. So maybe I need to stop what I'm doing and do that to them instead of just throwing them in here and letting them dry. But, you know, none of the brushes I have are expensive or anything like that, so. Awesome. Yeah, this looks lemon yellow and stuff. It doesn't look like that in real. Even when I put it here and stand over and look at it, I'm really happy with the color. So, all right, so what do we have here? Archer's still drying. I know we're gonna do a. Let's do this. Let's do the Stug 3. Let's do the Stug 3. All right, so I'm gonna do this exactly the same way I did the other one over the weekend. Okay. Let's set this on its side. Unless this guy's dry. You know what? Before I do that, let me get a couple of more corks and put bases on these guys so we can. I got plenty of corks. I got plenty of screws. Let me grab 3 of them. I guess it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I don't know why they discontinued that set of rules, but they did. It has some pretty unique mechanisms, and it was really similar to some rules that I was coming up with a buddy of mine at the time in the late 90s. It was actually pretty scary how close they were. The only thing that was different is I wanted a percentage chance of hitting and then a hit location on like the human body and the effects and stuff like that, you know, for like rifle fire or something like that. And Face of Battle combines it all in one roll for the infantry fire, and it works. It works. You can cause a wound, a KIA, morale checks of certain degrees. It's, you know, strictly percentile, so it makes sense to me. I'm a percentile gamer, or used to be. Let's get a new super glue one, okay? And see if we can find the center of gravity on this thing. It's about right there. Okay, so it's the split between the tires. Okay. I want you to ditch this if it's dead. I got a whole bunch of them. This method works pretty well for me. Oh, the Archer, we can't do that. It's rounded. Whoops. Right? The hell we can't. The hell we can't. Wow. Okay. And we can't do the other two vehicles because there's no way. They're too damn heavy. This thing weighs, I swear, like 3 pounds. Yeah. I just don't want you here front and center. Let's put you over here. Well, now you're making me look bad. And you'd think, oh, just glue it upside down. Yeah, it doesn't work. I've tried it. Actually, you actually need the weight of this thing on it. Well, I didn't think this guy was dry. If he's dry, let's do some Panzer Gray. Let's do some Panzer Gray. All right. Let's do some Panzer Gray. All right, because we haven't done one of those yet. Yeah, this is an old model that I salvaged from a estate sale. So let's not use this brush for that. Let's get another crappy brush that I don't mind ruining it if that's what it comes down to. And something like this. Let's use a nylon one. Something like this ought to be fine. All right. And I just kind of experimented doing this method the other day, and I guess it's my method now. I like it. So we're going to use German Gray as a base. And let's use a shim, not this, or it'll dry out too much. We can put this on afterwards. Okay. German Gray from Vallejo. This is a Stug 3E. Let's leave a space over here to dry brush that. Ah, shit. I used the one I didn't want to use. Fudgesicle. After I did that nice job of cleaning it. Yeah, I can't see anything if I don't have my glasses on. I mean, I'm like extremely like tunnel vision. All right. False start. All right. Take two. And we want to leave some of those black panel lines on here. So this is the base color. We're going to put this all over the vehicle. Then we're going to do a Agrax Earthshade wash, which dirties it up, adds some other, dare I say, modulation. And then we dry brush on top this again. And then we add a special color that has a tiny little blue tint to it, because I like my German vehicles, my Panzer Gray ones, with a little bit of a blue tint to them. Just very minor. And I was happy how I did the one vehicle it turned out. But even that vehicle, I had originally painted it all in this color. including in the grooves, and it looks better not in the grooves. And this is just kind of a mindless way to do this. You know, I've seen, oh, these two things are going to be rust buckets. There's those two mufflers. When I got this vehicle, it was a mess. This plate was on the front, so I had the mufflers on the front of the vehicle, and it was glued. It was glued really well. It was epoxied really, really well. And I'm like, well, I didn't realize that it had the mufflers in the wrong place, and I've got to either fix it or not paint this vehicle. And I didn't think I was going to be able to pull it off, but the acetone did eat the epoxy. It is 20 millimeter. 20 millimeter, as somebody on the miniatures page said a long time, the one true scale. Yep. It used to be fairly popular in the United States. It's pretty much just resorted to in the UK. And it's not as popular as it used to be. But I don't have a love for 28 millimeter. I'm not a, well, what happened is there was this hobby store in Tampa that's about 2 hours away. In the early 90s we'd go and take, trips down there. And you didn't know what you were going to pick up. And I fell in love with these miniatures that were 20 millimeter scale for World War II skirmish. And, at that time, in the early 90s, they didn't have that many wargaming miniatures, but you could go to a hobby store and they had all kinds of 1/72nd scale vehicles, which just about every vehicle is available in that scale. At that time, 15 millimeter wasn't a World War II scale. There wasn't anybody that was making them at the time for World War II. Or it was just kind of hush-hush. They weren't easy to find. And, so if you wanted vehicles for skirmish, this was the scale to do it in. But it really did it because I loved the figures. Because in skirmish, I don't want two of the same figure. I don't have repeat poses. There was that much of a variety in them. Because they each have a personality. They each have a surname on the back of the figures. Here's a German guy that I got. I haven't redone his stand yet. Because I'm in the process of redoing the stands, but they all have the surname of the figure on them, and because what happens is you're gonna pull a chit out of a bag, and that's who's gonna go next. So if you got the guy's name, it's really easy to remember who's who when it's printed on their actual stand, anyways. So, but this vehicle is by some manufacturer that I am not familiar with. Somebody mentioned it on one of my live feeds a couple weeks ago, and I've tried to go back and find who it was, but I don't remember who it was. It was something like that, and that's the way it was, or something like that, I think is what they said was the manufacturer of this. But this is not a very good model by any stretch of the imagination. And it's pretty rough, but I think it'll do the part. Like I said, this is a used vehicle from a estate sale at a gaming convention. Which, because I've been to a couple of estate sales in real life and I've found nothing, but it's at a game convention where it's at. But I don't need this stuff. It's sad that somebody had to pass away to get these things moving on. I'd rather the people not pass away, but we'll see if we can't bring these things to glory. And the nice thing about this method is it dries really, really fast. Really, really fast. So we've Panzer Grayed this guy. Okay, we'll let him sit for a little bit. Let's do the Oh, I need to check to make sure it's glued. Is it safe to? I don't know if I want to put all that pressure on it. Let's start. It's got a spot to grab it on the bottom. Now, another thing you can do is this. See where I can find my stickum. Here it is. This blue tack. In this case, it's white tack. Just put it on one of these, and we can screw it to the back. We did GHQ micro armor. I did too. What I really dislike about GHQ micro armor is the infantry are just so insignificant. Like nobody gives a crap about them. So they're not any fun to play, in my opinion. And I think everything should have its purpose. And that's the only reason I didn't like micro armor is it's really expensive now. I remember it was $5 a pack. Okay, that's strong enough. All right, got it. Now let's do the same treatment to the turret here. Now, some of these vehicles, it's really not that much of a difficult decision whether you make the hatch open or closed. This is a two-man turret, and the commander is also the loader. I'm sorry, he's also the gunner. So if you got somebody that's crew exposed, the vehicle's not, the main armament's not being fired. So it's real simple to just say, we're not going to put a guy sticking his head out. Because otherwise, nobody's manning the gun. And I'm dying to get more of these vehicles, but I got a bunch to do, and I need to do something with these before I get more, just so I can feel good about it. Okay, it's probably good enough. Now I've seen this is a 20mm cannon, autocannon really. I've seen these painted black. I've seen them painted the core color of the tank. And I honestly like them painted the core color of the tank. It looks weird to have them black, so mine will be the core color of the tank. Ultimately, it's not that noticeable because of the dark gray, but and we're going to do the same thing here. So I was looking for a method that the vehicles could look equivalent to how the figures look, and I'd be happy with it. And I'm happy how it's turned out so far. So can't really complain. Infantry or fodder. Yep. And this cow catcher on the front, I was reading somewhere that actually was doubled as extra armor. Because these things aren't very heavily armored. I think they don't have anything more than like 20mm of armor on them. They might have 30 in a couple places, but that's about it. You played Modern in World War II. Yep, we did too. I was looking for my Combined Arms rule set for Modern about a year ago, and I can't find it. I don't think I sold it. Nobody wants to buy the mold things. I certainly don't want to go to the post office to mail something away. So you got a complete Soviet motorized rifle division. Okay. Yeah, I had some T7. I had West Germans for modern, and Brits, and Soviets. Them ones just ruined the game. They just like, it's just not fun to play. It's just too powerful. So okay, those two are done in Panzer Gray. Now we're gonna go ahead and wash this out, and then we'll be right back with the Agrax. Yep, we played Combined Arms too. I was looking for my copy. I don't know where it went. All right, let's set this aside. Let's grab a different brush for the Agrax. Challenger was no slouch. The Merkava. I don't think that I ever played with the. I like Arab-Israeli wars, like 73 war. I had some stuff for 73 war. I just remember that. Super Shermans. Super Shermans look cool. A bunch of T-55s and T-62s. BRDMs. Had Leopard 1s, Leopard 2s, Martyrs. Chieftains. I love the way Chieftains look. Chieftains look really, really cool. No, but I was looking for my set of the Combined Arms because about a year ago I'm like, I wonder what it would look like if you did, a fold a gap type of scenario, but in the late 50s, early 60s, late 50s, and the time period where the U.S. used those M103, the heavy tanks, because I'm really fascinated by those. Okay, so let's take a look at how this looks like. Now we're going to put this yucky brown over it. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see what the stats on that thing is. I couldn't find my rules. I couldn't find my rules. So I don't know what the hell happened to them. If I did combined arms or command decision or something along that I'm not going to. But if I had to do it in this day and age, I would use the 3mm stuff. I'd use the Pico armor, and I would make a stand where the whole platoon is represented on the stand. So maybe a stand that's maybe 30mm by 30mm, or 40 by 40. I'm sorry, yeah, something like that. And then every vehicle's there, and it's still one stand. So even though it would behave like one vehicle, all of the vehicles would be there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think it'd look pretty cool. But I can't be into everything. H-64 is flying death. Yeah. Can't remember if we had some of those or not. But even the M1s with the 105, but still, they were basically impervious to everything. So what we would do is the M1s would end up dropping smoke in front of themselves, and then since they had thermal sights, just shoot through the smoke at your enemy. They would smoke themselves, and then they wouldn't be able to reply. I never played Challenger. I know what you're talking about. Okay, it should be just about do it. I should buy more of this stuff now that we've found a good use for it. I've had it a long time and never did anything with it. I did a lot with Nuln Oil, but not with this. And I don't want to use enamels. They're just a pain to clean, and they smell bad. And there's no reason to resort to enamels. All right, so we're going to let that dry. And we're going to do the same thing to this German armored car. No, this is Agrax Earthshade. So it's like a dark brown equivalent of Nuln Oil. It's the same thing. And this stuff dries really fast. As if you use Nuln Oil, I'm sure you do. If you mention Nuln Oil, this stuff dries very, very fast. I actually saw a video of a guy on YouTube that used this method. I changed it a little bit. What I changed about it is I went ahead and just dry brushed the colors on, so that I left a pin wash, basically equivalent, on like all these panel lines, just to save some time. Okay, here's the turret. She's done on that. Okay, now let's come over here and do the body. Yeah, Agrax Earthshade. It's brown Nuln Oil, basically. But this guy did a video on how he painted Shermans, and I'm like, well, so I followed it, and I'm like, okay, this works, because I liked his end result. I actually like my end result better than his, but he did a great job on it. But that's stuff that you couldn't do a long time ago. You couldn't learn from each other while trying to invent the wheel at the same time. So oh, did I just totally forget to do the top color on that? Well, you know what? That is the engine compartment. We're gonna keep moving on. We gotta dry brush one more anyways. Too late now. Let's see how it turns out. Hell, it might even look better. Might even look better. I always like the look of these armored cars in the desert. But I like the Africa Core Desert guys where they're, you know, painted this color and then the dust and stuff ends up, you can still see some of the gray underneath them. You know, I don't like when they get repainted and in the Africa color. I'd like them to just be gray and then they just got really, really dirty. I don't know how the hell I forgot that. Yeah. Trying to do too many things at once. And I'm really bad at that. I am not a proud multitasker. Okay, now unfortunately, this is going to end up having to dry overnight to get it right, so. Oh, shit, we're on here. Well, we're on here. An hour? Yep, an hour and 8 minutes. Yep. Yep, so we're going to have to call this one while this stuff dries. And we'll mess with this stuff. Throughout the rest of the week. Oh, this stuff didn't stay on at all. Let's close this up completely. We do not need a spill of that magnitude here. Nordic, there you are. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Things are weird. Hey, look, it's your favorite vehicle. It's a 232. Yeah, it looks awfully dark. Don't worry, it'll get dry brushed up. Yep, got a 232 and a Stug 3E. We're going to do those two in gray. Panzer Gray. So we can see what that looks like, and they're both going to have a little bit of a blue tinge, but I got to wait for this stuff to dry now. So yeah, and Stephen Wright there, that's on there. He's also a combined arms player. I don't know if he's played Command Decision, but Nordic says he used to game with Chadwick. So that's pretty cool. I grew up playing that. That was my first World War II game, was Command Decision. Need to build a model of a 222. I got one, but it's shitty. It's the old Airfix one, and it doesn't even have the little grenade nets, the anti-grenade nets on the top, which is a very distinctive feature of a 222. It doesn't even have that, so. Anyhow, yeah, I got to call it a night, unfortunately. I got to let the stuff dry. It's already like 10, almost 11. So we should be back on later in the week. But thanks for stopping by. Spencer, don't forget to subscribe. I don't know if you are already, so if I come on, it should notify you, and you're undefeated as a team in Command Decision. Well, you've never beaten me. Anyhow, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night, and we'll see you.